Hello there to all my followers of darkness, shadow scavengers, and villainy aficionados. Welcome, bienvenue. Here I am, your good old Lord of Shadows, as always. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Months and months of waiting. Villains Review Season 3 is finally here. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has been patient with me. Yeah, it is finally here. Now, for the very first episode, or should I say the very first villain I'm going to review and criticize, sort of criticize, but yeah, I'll prefer to say review. So the very first villain I'm going to review, as you can see from the title, very unusual, but for me personally, all kinds of fictional villains are welcomed in my domain. So here we are, episode 1, we're going to start with Grýla. Now, when I say Grýla, I don't mean Grýla from folklore. I meant Grýla, the Winter Witch from the Red 1 movie. Yep. So without no further ado, let's start with one of my all-time favorites. This is your evil life. So basically, Grýla, the Winter Witch is, of course, naturally the main villain of the Red 1 movie, a brand new Christmas movie with Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans in it and everything. And basically, she's this, evil conjurer who kidnaps Santa Claus from the North Pole, and she tried to use his powers, or should I say his energy, to basically punish all the naughty children all over the world. Yep. I have to tell you, throughout the entire movie, she was really one tough cookie. Yep, she is a villainous sorceress or conjurer, whichever you prefer, / ogre. Although actually, I'm really kind of curious how they went with ogre, because when it comes to again, I'm gonna try to compare the Grýla from folklore and this movie, a few times throughout my villains review, which I just want to give you guys some preparations for that. But yeah, if I remember correctly from, Grýla from folklore, she's actually a troll. But in this version, she's an ogre. But, again, not just about this movie, there are a few versions of Grýla when it comes to folklore, Christmas legends and everything, that basically described her as an ogre. But in reality, she's basically a mixture of a troll and Baba Yaga. And basically she is the female version of Krampus. Because just like Krampus, Grýla is a Christmas monster who basically goes around punishing the naughty. However, in the movie, as Krampus put it, and almost everyone else, Krampus and Grýla, they work together to punish the naughty on the north and everything. But in the actual folklore, just like Baba Yaga, in the actual folklore, Grýla actually was devouring the naughty. Now, I always wondered if she actually was devouring just kids or basically anyone who is naughty. But anyway, so and also she's well known to have 13 children, or as they're known as the Yule lads. 13 children. I have to admit, her and her husband, they really kept busy. I'm going to give them that. 13 children. Wow. But anyway, so basically, as I said, throughout the entire movie, she, she, like I said, she kidnapped Santa Claus. She used one of his old inventions to create to multiply this one snow globe known as the Glaskathic, which is basically a prison for the naughty. In which kind of connects to what I just said, trying to punishing everyone in the world for being naughty. And I'm not just saying naughty, when it comes to on the list. I mean, I'm not just talking about children. I mean, literally everyone who she deems naughty. Yep. So this is kind of and of course, throughout the entire movie, she's been confronted by Colin Drift and Jack O'Malley. Yep. Who tried to stop her from her evil goal. This is kind of like a short version of This Is Your Evil Life. So now we can go to the villain's origin story. So basically, when it comes to the overall movie, the earliest recollection that we have from Grýla is basically when she was in a relationship with Krampus, basically the Christmas version of Harley Quinn and Joker, but a little bit more darker and twisted. Basically in the north side, the world basically punishing the naughty all over the place. but then eventually, also, being in a confrontation, with Santa Claus as well. But eventually, after Krampus, retired from doing this business, Grýla basically, took that in a very bad way, because as Krampus described, their relationship ended up, well, not actually Krampus, but actually the female agent that was from the movie, she basically described that their relationship ended up badly. Now, I always kind of wondered on which direction, or should I say on which side, because from the way how I understood Grýla's character, I would say from her side. Basically, Krampus giving up, punishing the naughty and everything like that, So I think, like, personally, I can already imagine Grýla taking that very personally. Yeah. Because even after the breakup and everything, she still had her strong beliefs, about, punishment, about justice, that not everyone should be overlooked and everything, So this is kind of like the overall origin story that we have, of Grýla when it comes to, Red One, very, very, very limited, and everything, even I remember, like, even in the folklore, we don't actually have an exact version of an origin story for Grýla, So yeah, that's basically overall origin story, So basically delivered with, like, limited information that we had from the movie itself, So again, being that short, but I will say also, before I go to strengths and weaknesses, I will also add that even though she has a lot of, like, Christmas villainy elements when it comes to Grýla, the Winter Witch, she also has a lot of elements as a very traditional, like, supervillain as well. Not just like when it comes to her design, but the overall goal and personality and, like, the way how she's depicted and everything. Like, it kind of gives you both vibes, like, like a Christmas villain, but also at the same time a traditional supervillain. So with that being said, let's go to the main part of my review, the strengths and weaknesses. Now, when it comes to strengths, I will give credit when it comes to Grýla's character. I will give her credit that she has conviction. She has conviction when it comes to, like, going through with her plan all the way till the end, which comes, like, her point of view on justice, point of view of the naughty, a point of view of, like, wanting to make the world clean, and she will do whatever it takes. Whoever stands in her way, she will destroy them, and continue with her plan. Even if it means kidnapping Santa Claus, like I said, she will do whatever it takes. So definitely, like, Grýla has conviction. Absolutely. That's one of my, like, first praises I will actually, gave her. Not just simply, like, like I said, not just simply, that, but also I will give her that she's, like, very cold, no pun intended. She's very cold, ruthless, vengeful. I mean, if you're looking at, like, what type of villain Grýla could be, I mean, I will put her in as well. Okay, let's stick with ogre in this one. I will give her a sort of like a vengeful ogre / sorceress type of, like, title, honestly, because basically, if you look at her goal and everything, which I'm gonna get to that, it's very traditional. It feels very personal. It feels very, like seeing the hero, seeing herself as the hero of the story, that she's right, the sense of justice and everything, like the world should be purified and things like that. Like, I mean, again, I'll get to that, but it kind of like, so it kind of like, like I said, that's what I meant when I said that she appears to be, vengeful and everything, and also, like I said, her hateful view on the naughty children, trying to punish them, all of them. She also appeared throughout the entire movie that she's very cunning and manipulative. Absolutely, when it comes to using magic and technology. Although for technology, I do have a little bit of a criticism, about her as a villain, but I will get to that a little bit later. But so basically, she uses both magic and technology to basically carry on her villain goal. And like I said, villains usually that see themselves as the heroes of their story, they always see themselves justified for their action, And Grýla is the same thing. She sees herself justified, for her actions. actually believing that enforcing this type of extreme, actually, not enforcing, I would say basically, like I said, basically the reason why she feels justifying her actions, I would say, because she believes that her being extreme, is basically sort of like a necessary justice. I'll put it that way, and of course, of course, I can also mention her bitter part of her personality, especially towards Santa Claus, and the way how he's, instead of trying to punishing the naughty, he always tries to give basically teach them to be good for, next time, basically Santa Claus always see them as there's still some good in them, even though they were on the naughty list and everything. And that's one of the reasons why Grýla thinks, the bitterness of Santa Claus, because always trying to see good in everybody, which of course in her Gryla's perspective, when someone is naughty is naughty, when someone is good is good. Very, like I said, her point of view is very basic in a way. And which and through all this, like I said, through the necessary justice, through her being extreme, she justifying herself for her actions and everything. She basically, you can also say she has a sort of her own twisted version of fairness. I will also mention that, and not to mention her really bad mommy personality towards her children. I mean, like all the other villains, she really hates failure. Which villain doesn't? And she the way how she fucking threaten her children, saying if you fail me one more time, I'm gonna put you in this experiment, which is basically with the glass cafe and everything. She means business. However, going with with that all being said, I would say when it comes to her power, her strengths and weaknesses. Well, when it comes to strength, I will give her credit that with all that I just said, she also has high intelligence, intimidation. She also showed some skills when it comes to leadership. Absolutely, when it comes to deception. I mean, if we talk making everyone believe that the Santa Claus was kidnapped and basically taken away from the North Pole into somewhere else, and then basically all of a sudden, everyone realized that she is still with that Santa Claus never left North Pole in the first place. So that's why I would say one of her skills definitely deception. She's also pretty solid trapper. Superhuman strength. When it comes to folklore beings like Grýla, of course she's gonna have superhuman strength. Also her powers of shape-shifting, other different magical abilities. I mean, okay, I will also connect the snowman into the mix and kind of give her credit that she has some skills when it comes to cryokinesis as well. And of course, being a mythical creature, she also has immortality. Absolutely. And also pretty impressive supersonic hearing. With the whole story, if you say her name, she might hear it. So I have to give her credit that she has very impressive hearing. Absolutely. But there's one thing that that when it comes to now, I will also comment that she one of her strengths possibly could be technology, but I would say her knowledge of technology, from what I've seen, is basic. She's no high level mad scientist type of person. I would say she is more skilled in magic than technology. She's no Dr. Doom and everything. Even though mixing technology and magic, kind of similar to a Dr. Doom, but when it comes to skills, not really. So I would say definitely because of her because of her basic skill of technology, I would say also that's a little bit of a weakness for her. Especially when she was testing the Glaskafake and everything. But also in the same time, so with that being said, I mean, she has a lot of good strengths, absolutely. Character-wise and power wise. Like she has pretty impressive skills. Absolutely. I mean, which also, like I said, she has a lot of like Christmas villain element, but also at the same time she has very like super villain elements as well. Now, when it comes to weaknesses, now besides like not having too much knowledge, when it comes to technology, I would say most of her weaknesses could be maybe her power range. Even though what I've seen, with possessing the middle guy and everything, when she was talking to Colin Drift and Jack O'Malley, through him and everything, like she really proved that she's really powerful. Absolutely. So I would say her weaknesses are mostly here. And very, very traditional, typical, villain weaknesses. Like, for example, I will add that she has definitely arrogance. She's very overconfident. She also, I mean, which villain doesn't? She basically underestimated the heroes. In this case, the Colin Drift guy and Jack O'Malley. She definitely underestimated him. I mean, she thought that she had him when she imprisoned Jack O'Malley and everything, but in the end, that basically went out the window. So that for sure, and also at the same time, yeah. Also, on the same time, not basically having a full-on bulletproof, solid goal plan. I mean, basically, her plan basically failed right, before she even left North Pole. So, like I said, so with everything keeping in mind and everything, I would say her weaknesses are definitely, like I said, more mental than her actual powers and skills and everything. So again, she has very typical villain weaknesses, which, like I said, from overconfidence, arrogance, underestimating your opponent, very well, not very godlike, thinking of yourself, kind of like which also kind of also brings me into like her ego, a little bit of a narcissism, if you can put it that way. That also plays a big part, and also basically she sees everyone beneath her and everything, that she's like she sees herself more powerful, far more better than Santa Claus and everything. So yeah, I would say very basic, like traditional villain weaknesses, but that's basically what, for me personally, Grýla possesses. Now on we go to the villain's goal. Now, her goal basically was, as I mentioned a little bit throughout the entire video, is basically she wanted to kidnap Santa Claus, use a bit of his energy, like stole one of his old machines, and basically create multiple copies of the infamous Glaskafik, which is basically a snow globe, magical snow globe that traps the naughty. And through that, she basically wanted to spread the entire collection of Glaskafik, as I like to say. So she wanted to throw all the snow globes, basically take them and bring them to all over the world, to every single naughty person there is. Which basically, as Dwayne Johnson's character said, you're literally talking about everybody, because this time she doesn't want to punish just the naughty. She wants to punish everyone, like like from a person who just simply tells a little lie, or maybe crosses the road, or if you're driving a car, passing through the light, or maybe like picking your nose, or cheating or something, like basically literally she wants to punish everybody, which, let's be honest, it's like The Rock said, literally everyone on the world, because we all sometimes, every single person sometimes does something, that people might consider naughty, even though in reality they're good people, but, we all have flaws, and we all sometimes do, some naughty stuff, now, of course, naughty stuff, they're like, very, very minimum. So, yeah. which literally I really wondered if she actually successfully did that, who would actually be who would actually be still, who will actually still remain on Earth if she actually did that? Because in my opinion, she would have trapped literally everybody until like there's no one left on Earth. Because literally everyone does something naughty. I mean, I can guess the only people who actually could still be remain without being trapped are basically babies. That's the only people I can see survive this. But yeah, but basically her goal is very, like I said, it's very, I see myself as the hero of my own story, being the, in a way that, she's, her, like, sorry, lost myself a little bit, but I'll try to pick myself up. Now, anyway, I was trying to say that her goal basically tells you that she sees herself as the hero of her own story, that her actions are needed, that the goals literally symbolizes that she means like real business, like she acts with no mercy whatsoever, like she literally believes that the world needs to be cleansed, so only that the pure ones could exist, and for that, the world can finally evolve and be good and nicer, et cetera, et cetera, and also in the same time, through this goal, she sees herself as basically the judge, the jury, and executioner. So yeah. You can also categorize that she is basically also in sort of way a righteous villain or rightful villains, if you prefer, in a way. So overall, like her as a villain, very very basic, very traditional, but still impressive. But I will say this: her goal, it feels like it wasn't that well planned, and also at the same time, it didn't have any fruition at all. It immediately failed. It immediately failed at the beginning. Like she didn't even left the North Pole at all. I mean, she tried to, but she failed. And of course, with all that being said, poof, she turns into an ogre. Which is, and when you see her and the way how the final battle was, it kind of makes you feel like, welcome to the boss level, because it really felt like a boss fight. Like Red One is not a movie, but a video game. And sure, but I will say that she was very intimidating when she was an ogre. I mean, who wouldn't be intimidated of a giant ogre with two tails? I mean, who wouldn't? But even still, yeah, she's a very classic, traditionally made Christmas / supervillain. And with that being said, with all that in mind, I will give her a solid 7.5 out of 10. Some people might think like it's a little bit too much, but for me, I think it's a fair rating. I mean, she really proved herself. She really proved herself to be an interesting villain with a goal and her strength and weaknesses and personality. She proved herself to be quite a interesting villain. A little bit formidable, but not entirely. So I think 7.5 out of 10. It's a fair rating. And with that being said, we have come to an end to the first episode of Villains Reviews Season 3. Well, here I am done, guys. You know the drill. Rate the video, comment, like, subscribe, give your personal thoughts and ideas. Would you follow Red One, the movie? Would you follow about Grýla, the Winter Witch, as the main villain? Give me your own personal thoughts, everything in the comment section down below. And as always, stay tuned for more, guys. See you guys later. And of course, as always, Lord of Shadows signing off, or as I love to say, later, fucker.